And this can be also if you're speaking to associations because you know that your ideal audience is in there, or networks. It could be that you start at a small one and you work your way up, right, to bigger and bigger audiences through that one vein, so to speak. So this is where we sit. So if we were to number this, and some of you are familiar with this, so you should be able to do this pretty quickly. Fingers on the keyboards, ready to go into the chat. I want to know where you sit. If we number this from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, where do you actually sit mostly? Because some of us will have flashes of brilliance, but where do you sit mostly? Because it's very possible to pop up here and then come back here. Pop up here, then come back here. What we want is we want to get to a point where we have all of you consistently up in the gold zone, yeah? Amazing. So a lot of people are around the 3s, some around the 2s and 3s, 3 to a 4, brilliant, amazing. So most of you are sitting exactly where I would expect for this kind of group, okay? I'm going to ask you guys to do something now. I'm going to ask you to actually play along with me to answer some questions, because, and you don't have to share these. I'm not going to ask you to put them in the chat, but I do want you to take the time to answer these questions. And the first one is this. So the financial year of 2025, sorry, not 2026, financial year 2025, or the last 12 months, if you're not in Australia, some of you are from around the world, write down your revenue number for that, if you know it. Most of you should know it. Then the second thing is, I want you to write down your revenue goal for this next 12 months, or the financial year 2026, if you're in the Australian market. Then I want you to write down the difference in dollars between the two numbers. Now remember, you don't need to put this in the chat if you don't want to. This is just for you, and it will make a really big impact on some of what we're doing today, but absolutely for what we're doing tomorrow. Right? So when you come back tomorrow, please make sure that you bring these numbers with you, the difference between those numbers. Then I want you to take a moment, and I want you to think about and write down the 3 things that this number for 2026 would give you. Now, some people will go down in revenue because they want to consolidate, but most people will be looking to drive their revenue higher. So if you were to get this thing that happens in section 3, right, or these numbers in number 2, right, what does this give you? Does it give you more time? Does it give you more team? Does it give you systems? Does it give you access? What does it give you? It might be that you need to pay the mortgage, you have children heading for private school. Who's ever paid private school fees, right? Right? Sometimes that's it. I just want the private school fees paid, or just the school fees, full stop. So as you write all of those down, I'm then going to ask you to think deeply. And any of you who are coaches will probably ask, or will probably know these questions. And these 4 questions I'm going to ask in sequence. They won't come up on the screen. So looking at that, your goals for the next 12 months and what those things would give you. So looking at number 2 and number 4. So your goals for the next 12 months and the 3 things that would give you. I want you to write down, I'm going to give you about 30 seconds per question. What will happen if this does happen? What will happen if this does happen? So if you achieve your goals and those 3 things, what will happen? What will you notice? Question number 2 is what won't happen if this does happen? So if you achieve 2 and 4, what won't happen anymore? You got to die. And then question 3, what will happen if this doesn't happen. So if you don't get your goals and you don't get those three things, what will happen? What will you notice?
Yeah, ma'am, can you repeat the question number 2?
Roxanne's putting them into the chat. Question 1 is what will happen. Question 2 is what won't happen if this does happen. Question 3 is what will happen if this doesn't happen. And question 4, for those of you playing along, what won't happen if this doesn't happen. So what won't happen if you don't hit 2 and don't hit 4. So with all those questions under your belt, and for some of you, if it's the first experience, you'll be thinking, what did you just do to my brain? For some of us, we will be quite comfortable with these questions. For all of you, what I'd love to do next is I'd love you to actually think about this, and I'm going to get you to drop this one into the chat. If you think about answering those questions and how you felt as you answer the Cartesian questions at the end, the real question from my perspective is on a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is absolutely no clue, and I saw some of you are not sure how to gauge what the revenue goal should be. From no clue to 10, where you absolutely know that those goals will happen and you may even exceed them, what is your level of confidence that you'll hit the number you wrote down against question 2, against your revenue goals for the next 12 months? Now, if you're not sure what they are because you're in startup mode, right, then let me know. So just drop that into the chat. Amazing. 5s and 7s, 1s, 7s, 5s. Amazing. Maybe in that first, around that messy middle, we're going to call it 5, 4, 6, 7, 7.5, 6 to 7. Amazing. 4, 5, 3. Incredible. 7. Great. So we don't have anyone sitting really at their 8, 9, 10 that I've seen so far. Mind you, the chat's going fast, so I might have missed some, which means we're in the perfect place, right? We're actually in really good company. Danielle Dobson, go. I love that. So what I'd love to do is just share to you at the moment some of the things before we keep going on. I just want to just share a couple of things that actually are from my own career and background before we get into how we actually fix all of this and the messy and start fixing the messaging. So the case for all of this for speaking is this, and remember that this means that I didn't have to invest any cash, just my time, right? So the first one is 30 minutes delivered often, drove that multiple 8-figure growth that I spoke about early. So actually nailing the speaking strategy for this, absolutely smashed it and grew the business in a way that nothing else could have. So we started with small rooms like Chambers of Commerce, and by the end of it, I was speaking at conferences in front of 1,000 people of my ideal clients. There's a free 2-hour workshop that led to $370,000 in fees within 18 months. Now, that was a really interesting one as well, and this is why I want you to get the skills to become predictable with this, because I actually tendered for this particular workshop through a members-based association and lost the tender. I came second. The person that they selected dropped out at the last minute. So 4 days out, they've rung me and said, can you do it? And by the way, we can only pay the balance of the fee that we haven't paid that person yet, but we'd love you to do it. So it's a 2-hour drive each way, a third of the fee, which was all that was left to pay, and a 2-hour drive back. And I did it for free, and it led to that. Now, the reason why I was able to say yes to that was because by this stage, I knew that if I spoke in that room, I would generate revenue, right? So your decision-making ability, really, your decisions really clarify through this, through building these skills. Signature presentation to launch, foundations of $900,000 in fees in about 18 months. 20 minutes, single phone call, $120,000 contract. 20 minutes repeated 7 times over. When I first got to town here in Brisbane, generated $200,000 in revenue. And then the other 2 things that you can see there. What I want you to think about here is number 3 and number 5. So a signature presentation to launch in 20 minutes repeated 17 times, and also the 30 minutes delivered often. Those presentations stayed the same, right? So signature presentation to launch stayed the same for the 2.5 years I was in that business. The presentation in number 5, the 20 minutes, stayed the same for all 17. We keep thinking we have to be clever and creative to show how bright and smart we are, but we don't. We actually need to be on point and completely relevant so that our perfect audience will find us. Repetition also means that when you are referred to speak somewhere, that they know what they're getting. They become a trustable, referable resource for organizations where your perfect audiences sit. Super important. This also means that I knew that I was going to get the trifecta in every room. And what I want you to understand as well is if the room has your perfect people in it, you don't need huge rooms to be able to have a compound effect, right? Which is what happened in these. These 20 minutes repeated 17 times, this one here, they were all small rooms, right? Every single one of them was a small room. So it's super, super important. Okay, we're having tech issues all the time here today, guys, so I'm just going to keep moving. I'm just going to click into, here's the big secret, I didn't actually have any tech running only 3 minutes before we came on, so hopefully I can get this to fix now. Okay, amazing. You don't need to be perfect, just need to get going. Okay, so then let's move on to what we're here for, and that's fixing a messy message. Now, I can't fix everyone in this 45 minutes that we've got left together, but I can actually talk to you about some of the basics and some of the structural things that you can change very quickly, because this is about people hearing you and shooting you straight into the gold zone. Now, with what I'm about to share with you, one of our clients in one of our programs, so not a private client, but one of our clients in one of our programs, took what we gave him, which was very similar to this, and spoke on a stage where he knew he should be able to generate $200,000 to $300,000 worth of work with a sell from stage strategy. With what we teach, there is no sell from stage strategy, and the whole range of reasons that we'll talk about in a moment. He delivered this last week, and his words to me were, "Mate, I forgot to add a 0 to my goal." So like, what do you mean? He said, "I just closed $2 million worth of business from that stage." Blew his own mind and blew ours, right? I'm still literally happy dancing for him because it changed his world, right? I'm going to talk about how we change it in sales and all that sort of stuff. But it's one of those things where if you get this right, it changes the game. Years ago, I was working with someone from the US. She was at a mastermind with me. She rang me. She actually had a multi-million-dollar academy, coaching academy, and she filled 80% of the registrations every year from this one particular trade hall exhibition where she pitched from stage. And she was craving, she always wanted to get the main stage gig. And she got the main stage gig. And the first thing they said to her was, "But you can't sell from stage." She's like, "What?" Like, this is 80%. And I think her business at the time was paying about $6 or $7 million. This is 80% of my volume every year. And so she rang me and we worked through it, and she still managed to sell from main stage without selling a single thing. She still managed to sell $4.5 million worth of registrations in, right? Now, I don't need $4.5 million. I'd love $4.5 or $2 million, but also every $20,000 room is really valuable, would you say, if you knew that you could do it predictably. So these are the things that I want you to understand. And it's not, this is really playing up today. There we go. Because more stages actually won't get what you need if you don't understand how to deliver it, and if you're not actually delivering a really clear message for your people. The first thing is that you need to know who and what, because who and what matters. Now, people will say to me, "I speak on leadership." Amazing. Leadership is like the 8-lane in each direction freeway from LA to San Diego. Do you know what lane of leadership you are actually in? Because I don't know if you've ever driven that highway, but it's not pleasant in peak hour. And that's kind of the market you're in if you don't know your lane, right? And how we actually know our lane is we know what we're best at solving for who, right? And if we don't know that yet, let's go and play and scatter ourselves everywhere and see who actually it arrives with. Now, when I did my industrial relations business, it was a little bit easy because I knew that I wanted to work, I was in regional Queensland, I wanted to work with mining services and rapid growth manufacturing engineering companies. The reason being is their growth usually outpaced their ability to look after their people, and it would bite them at some stage. And when they got into trouble, they had great big checkbooks that they were willing to open. So I knew if I hit the right market with the right message, I knew exactly where my lane was. I did HR audits and enterprise bargaining agreements for rapid growth, second and third tier mining services, manufacturing, engineering companies. I knew exactly what my lane was. I knew exactly what my key to market was. And that's why it worked. So do you need to know this up front? You may not know up front, right? But what you do need to do is get really good at giving it a red hot crack and selling on one. One of our clients we worked with a few years ago, we actually went sector by sector. So she wasn't sure. So we tried out every sector over 12 months. We tried out each sector for 3 months at a time, 90-day hot crack. And then we actually, the third quarter, we landed on the perfect sector, right? But being all things to all people won't get you anywhere no matter who you are. And then we structure a messy message, right? Because we actually have to structure it so that we can actually get results, right? People think, so what I want you to do is every time you speak, no matter what it's for, and it might be in a networking room, it might be on a major conference stage, whatever it is, if you've got something behind you that you can grow through this, what I want is that you move an audience from where they are now to where you want them to be, to where they never expected to be. And that sort of movement, that is a deliberate act, right? It does not happen on a whim. I get people all the time who say, oh, I just believe in speaking authentically, so I just speak off the cuff and people love me. Great, that's all about you. I want you to do something in service to your audience because it will really make a difference. And if you are doing really well just winging it, then imagine if you did it deliberately, right? And that's what happened, right? That's what happened to the gentleman I just spoke about with his $2 million thing last year. He'd already been getting $200,000 to $300,000 every time he spoke. He was quite happy with that. All we did was structure it, right? That was it. Okay, so we structure our message and we start with, well, the structure. So I'm going to draw a loop. And for some of you who have been within our programs, you will see the loop, but this is going to be a little bit different. So first of all, we're going to draw the loop. The loop is something you get super, super, super familiar with in my world, even if you're only here for the next 3 days. So we have a way of opening. And when we're speaking to present, and I'm going to give you some numbers here based on doing a 20-minute presentation, but it works for if you're doing 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 45 or 60. You just expand and multiply. So coming in here, you open with impact, and you don't want to take more than about 3 minutes in here, a maximum of 5 minutes. Now, opening with impact is a compelling story. It's a really bold statement of a claim. It's an unexpected insight, and it matters here because actually we've got to open with story still. So I don't care what your topic is, you still have to open with story. One of the things I love, we did some work with Carmine Gallo in the beginning of 2024, who's the author of 5 Stars, Talk Like TED, TED Talking, and a whole range of books on speaking. And one of the things he said to us was his greatest win from a corporate perspective was working with a defense industry contractor in the US who always wanted to win this particular $87 million contract. And he taught them to get rid of their slides and tell stories. And they thought he was an idiot, but he pointed out they'd never won it. So they did it, and they won it. Now, if it's good enough for an $87 million defense industry contractor, it's good enough for us. I don't think there's anyone more technical than someone playing at that level, right? So coming in, we want story, we want bold statements of claim, and if we are going to use research or data, we need to unfold it in a story manner, right? And the other thing I want to say to all of you, there's 2 things with this. Number 1, people think they need to be funny and get a laugh in the first 3 minutes or the first 30 seconds, whatever you've heard. Trust me, if you're not funny in real life, please do not try to be funny in your opening. right? If you're not actually a stand-up comedian, please do not try to be funny from a stage if you're not funny in real life. Humor is different, but don't try to be deliberately funny. Okay. And then the next thing is that you don't ever open with an opening question. Who's ever been in front of a presenter and the question is opened as they open and nobody answers? It's awkward, isn't it? Right? Do not open with an opening question. And the only caveat to this I was given by an early mentor is unless you know that 95% of the room will categorically answer yes, or 95% of them will categorically answer no. It's not that they'll answer yes or no, it's that the majority will swing in one direction. And it must be a yes or no answer. But most of us are not skilled enough yet to actually be able to pull that off. So open with story, something compelling and something magnetic. Then in here, we have what we call the hook and the promise. Right? And that hook and promise is 1 to 2 minutes, and it's really fast. It's literally introducing the one big idea or the transformation that you're about to unpack, right? It's a promise and it's a hook. It's usually got a bit of a headline and it's usually got a bit of intrigue to it, right? So don't just meander your way through this stuff. Be deliberate. Down in here, and for any, oh, that was not supposed to happen. I told you I'm having fun with my tech today. Okay, down in here is what we call the engine room. And the engine room is from our keynote structure. In this version, though, for business building, we call it the core, right? And the core is, if you're on 20 minutes, so remember this is 1 to 2 minutes, if you're on 20 minutes, this is around 10 to 12 minutes, right? So if you're doing 40 minutes or 45, just double it, right? And the core is where we teach. We actually give the best of us. We actually give our most valuable insights away. We don't give all of the how, but we definitely give some of the what and the why. And we teach no more than 3 key points. The brain works in threes, right? So when we are actually subject matter experts or entrepreneurs trying to get people to buy into something we have no more than 3 key messages that we're trying to land in this section. And what we do with this is we use the story, insight, and how we apply this for each of those 3 elements that we're going to teach in the core. So story, the insight, and the application of it. And this stops you from going so far into how that people feel like they've got enough from you. Because that's the other thing. Who feels like they give everything away and people run away satisfied and happy and don't need to see them anymore? It's on the biggest risk when we're really smart at what we do. So that's the core. And then we come out. And the out is the balance of the time. So it's usually around about 3 to 5 minutes. And the out should have a really compelling story of some description that actually tells us why it brings home, sense makes everything we've taught them, why this matters and why we should pay attention now, right? And then we end with a call to action. But I'm going to talk to you about what the call to action looks like in a moment. Because we're not selling, it's not buy my thing, right? That's the last thing you want to say, okay? So that is how we do that. Now that is, as I said, that is based on a 20-minute presentation, and you can just multiply it out for different things. There's a few things that I want you to know though. There's a decision driving difference, and this is what I want you to know, because most of us are too busy selling ideas and expertise instead of getting people to take action, right? So we are so busy talking to our ideas, our experience and expertise that people feel really full and satisfied, but they're not actually taking any action, right? And we need them to start to get into motion, because if they start to get into motion from something that you tell them, then they're actually going to come towards you. If they walk away feeling happy with what you gave them, they may not come back. Hope is not a strategy. I hear so many people, and only on the weekend I was reading someone who said, you know, I've got this engagement, and what I'm hoping is, like, no, specific, strategic, let's get going. The first thing is you need to frame the decision up front. And what I mean by this is you need to set the stage for a choice that they have to make and why this matters right now. If possible, give them a fork in the road moment. And it's really important that we bring this in that hook and promise, because what we're trying to do is actually stop the build. So as speakers and as subject matter experts and entrepreneurs, we quite often do a build, right? We've got to actually tell them within the first kind of 20% of a lot of time, what is the thing that they're actually going to be choosing today, right? Because otherwise you lose the attention by the time you get to that. And it's really, really depressing, actually. Then we need to create micro decisions right throughout. So we need micro agreements all the way through this. So micro decisions is using small yeses all the way through to build momentum. And I don't mean the 1980s. Yeah, is that a yes or a yes? I don't mean the crappy contrived stuff, but things that actually get them to think, to go internal, to make the next step seem like something that they should be doing. Because here's the thing. We think if we don't build little yeses along the way, we think that when we get to the end and we ask for a call to action or we ask for people to do our thing, that they'll just make the decision. But people don't. People don't make big, abrupt decisions. They love feeling like they're in control, and they love feeling like they've plotted their own pathway to get to a decision to work with you or to say yes to the next step, right? And you need to make action frictionless. Too many people make things too hard. If there's a complicated scenario, there's like, you need to fill out this form, and there's like, you need to do this, and you need to do that. Make it really simple, right? You need to remove all hesitation from taking the next step. You need to frame it as the obvious next natural level. What I need you to know from this as well is the more frictionless you make this, the quicker you'll actually get to gold zone. We overcomplicate things. That was my biggest lesson in growing a multiple 8-figure business. We actually scaled when we stripped back our services, stripped back our clients, and got really clear on our message to market and how we turned up and spoke about it. That's when we scaled. Most of us will actually leave the audience up, the action up to the audience, and we will assume that the audience will jump through hoops. I actually love Donald Miller's story brand attitude. Stop asking people to burn unnecessary brain calories, right? The smoother you make it, the better it is. And my hot tip is actually always leave room for you to direct the traffic. So instead of selling in something little, and this actually happened with a client years ago, Dr. Jim Smith, $30,000 a year keynote speaker, 15,000 private mentoring program, US dollars, is in the US. Heading down to speak at an association event for the National Speakers Association of America. He lived in Philadelphia. The meeting was in Dallas, Texas. A little bit of a way to go, right? It's like us going to Perth. And I see Katrina Ford's on here. It's like us going to Katrina. Now, he was going down the path of doing the normal thing. I'll leave this on as well from Perth. Of doing the normal thing, which is adapting, doing a special presentation just for the room, creating a one-day workshop to sell them at a discount rate, to come back and deliver later to make up the money for the fee. Now, my words to him were, you're $30,000 per keynote. You are not going to sell enough people into a discount workshop to make that worth your while and have to travel back there to deliver it. It was pre-COVID, so not as much virtual. So I convinced him that he should just go and deliver his $30,000 keynote because it's a room full of aspiring and emerging professional speakers. He thought I was nuts. He rang me from the airport in Philadelphia because we decided we'd do it. He rang me from the airport before he took off. He said, Coach, don't think I can do this. I'm like, no choice now, you're going to have to. Rang me as he landed in Dallas. Coach, don't think I can do this. He was actually ringing me, right, rather than just messaging. Gets to the event, Coach, I don't think I can do this. I'm like, you're going to have to. Just get in there and knock it out of the park. Now, what he did was he delivered this incredible keynote, and he didn't sell a single thing. And he got bombarded afterwards. He's straight into gold zone. So 3 things happened. Number 1, he got referred to 3 other gigs by people who suddenly knew what he did. So other professional speakers in the room referred him to their clients for what he did because they'd seen how he was. He won 2 of those gigs, $60,000. He picked up 6 private coaching programs for his $15,000 a month program, $15,000 program. That's another $90,000. And the third thing that he was most excited about was a chapter president who didn't seem to give a rip about him, drove him back to the airport and took him out for dinner. That was what he was most excited about. So you need to actually understand that sometimes being able to be in a position to direct the traffic, to allow people to come to you and talk to you about what it is going on for them, is actually better than pigeonholing. He would never have got that work if he'd done his normal, adaptive presentation just for that audience, sell in a cheap workshop that he has to come back and deliver. He wouldn't have got the same result because he would have been selling in a low rate. And the same happened with the client I just spoke about that had her coaching academy. She was always selling little programs. she did fill a lot of those spots, but the biggest thing that happened was somebody who came up to the end, I'm going to share this technique with you tomorrow, somebody came up to the end and talked to her, ended up being the biggest contract of her career. She picked up a training and development contract for L'Oreal Northern America, right? And she did it because she didn't try to sell in the coaching academy program, and she didn't try to pitch from the stage. And because of that, this person didn't cross his mind that she wouldn't be capable of doing this big job, right? And I'll talk to you exactly how she opened up that opportunity tomorrow. And so this is the difference. I wanted to run you through, like, that's all well and good, but what's the real difference here? And this is just a glimpse, but I hope it gets you taking. So we talked about the different stages of your presentation, right? And so your opening, 0 to 5 minutes, around 3 minutes is ideal. Most speakers are actually selling ideas instead of driving decisions. So most speakers will give a case study, because that's what we're told to do, give a case study. And if it's a knockout case study, absolutely. Or, sorry Sue about that, case study, or an overview of their history and expertise. This is who I am, this is what I've done, this is what I'm good at, this is my expertise. Kill me now, right? Shouldn't say that in case any of you do present that way right now. But what you actually want with this is a story which frames relevance. So you won't get the actual slides, guys. What you get is you do get a PDF copy in the replay, but it's mainly the replay. You want a story which frames relevance, global trending, research, data, like what it is that will get attention. And one of the things that we did really, really well in all the presentations that we did was we built stories that captured or stole magic powers from something going on in the world. So actually have a story that compels us and positions it. It's like the opening story in a TED Talk. It's never who I am and what I've done, is it? Ever, right? It's always something that positions what's coming next, right? Then in the hook and promise, most people will say things like, today I want to share with you some powerful ideas on leadership. And these are just examples, guys. These don't all run together. It's just to give you an idea. What we want to be saying instead, by the end of this talk, you'll decide which leadership gaps are costing you the most and know what to do about it. How more compelling is that? A hook and a promise, right? In your core, people might say, and this is the beauty for me, here's why employee engagement matters. And they'll walk through the logical things, and they'll walk through the stats, and they'll walk through all the stuff. Instead of saying, right now, your disengaged employees are costing you X per year. What's your next step to fix it? And then you unpack the solutions. Now, with my industrial relations consulting business, this is something we did. What I did was actually, instead of just saying, right now, your disengaged employees are costing X, Y, Z, because I came out of recruitment and labour hire, if everybody listened to the numbers, right, then they would actually all do the right thing. So what I did was I actually got a lot of global research and smooshed it all together and got the averages of lost productivity. And then I actually ran a story, right? And the story was a scenario of the receptionist, and days where we had receptionists, the receptionist that you're just tolerating because she's $20 an hour, and you'll tolerate her not being productive, talking to her mum, talking to her boyfriend, doing her nails, reading a magazine, because she's just $20 an hour. And then I would apply the research formula to show that that was costing $14,386 per year, right? And then I would say, because it was mining services, I would say, but let's talk about your mining engineer that you're just tolerating, who's $100 an hour. And usually I get some smart ass in the room, put his hand up and say, when did you last pay a mining engineer? They're more than $100 an hour. They're like $200. Okay, great. As I run you through these figures, double what I put up. And the $100 an hour engineer was costing $33,536. All of a sudden, it was irrelevant, right? And then I spent the rest of the core unpacking what to do with that. And then your closing, I hope you found these insights valuable, and if you did, please reach out to me, okay? What's the one thing you're willing to change today? Are you ready to make that decision now? If so, then let's chat. Right? So really, really important distinction, and hopefully to get you thinking just a little bit about some of the things that you can do, right? Because it does make a huge difference. And I just saw some questions going in the chat. So at the end of this, we will have a hot seat round, like where you take you away from the day, plus one hot question for people to ask. There is a hack, right? If you're doing 20 minutes or 30 minutes, there is a great hack, and I've even seen someone do it for 45 minutes, but it does get a bit tedious. Modelize your process. Create a visual model for your process and put it up on a slide and talk to it. Highlight, pop out pieces, and talk to the model. Take everything that you're doing, and these days with AI, there's no reason to not modelize. Just be careful you keep holding your IP. But create a model, a framework, or an acronym. I like visual models more than acronyms, more than frameworks. Visual models are really powerful, right? And it's also powerful because it keeps you on track. It keeps you delivering to that one message, that one point, that one thing that you want them to take away. At least 45% of our audience will be visual, right? Which also means that it's a really powerful tool for you to have, right? So this is what I want you to understand. And we actually have a model that I have used now for 7 years that you all have already seen. And if I'm doing a 10-minute presentation, I can do the entire presentation on that. I just build out the case studies and the steps through it, right? So actually creating a model doesn't even have to be complicated. It can be a ladder, it can be a quadrant, it can be a circle, and there's so many things that you can do. But actually the hack is to have a model that you speak to and a model that you can adapt to slightly different audiences, right? And it changes your entire game, right? Absolutely changes your entire game. So what I'd love you to do as we move into this next, I'm just going to talk briefly about some of the things that we're doing, and it's only going to be a few minutes. But as we come back from that, I'm going to go around the room, so to speak, and just find out what's one thing that you're taking away and one thing that has surprised you. And then we'll also talk about what's coming up tomorrow. Brian, yes, it's in the engine room. Then we'll talk about what's coming up tomorrow as well. And we'll actually move through into the sales part tomorrow, which is really important because some people are really good at speaking but can't actually convert, and there's no actual process or engine room, and I want to speak into that and how we can quickly fix that for you. But right now, this is what's next in our world, and this is what we're really looking forward to. It's a program called the Messy Experts, and it's a 12-month business implementation program for experts and entrepreneurs who know they need to use speaking as their next channel to market. It's not just coaching, it's actually all action implementation. There's a lot of accountability. I've been doing this privately for people for almost 10 years, and we have so many case studies. We're taking people from 55,000 to 375,000 in 12 months, from 200,000 to 2 million, from 0 to 11 million, from like so many ways that we do this. And the reason why I get so frustrated, I used to get frustrated because I'd just be thinking, why are they not doing this? Why are they not speaking and converting? And then I realized, because for most of us, we don't know how to do it. Most of us actually know that we should be doing it, but I realized simply don't know how. So we've codified it. It's been more than 25 years I've been doing this, and I'm second generation of doing this. I didn't realize till recently. I actually learned this from my mum. I know, I'm getting that age now where I'm willing to acknowledge that I learned a lot of this from my mum and took it to the next level, but she definitely created the foundation. So this has been a way of being for us for decades. And I think Kevin's still on. Kevin, your picture is about to come up. So who is this for? It's for anybody who actually felt a sense of frustration with the Cartesian questions and their level of confidence and maybe sitting in the red zone. There's very specifically people who already have a reputation, but not necessarily the revenue to match. And we find that quite a lot. Okay, and when we're actually working with people privately and we're working with people in our group programs, we're finding this a lot. People are really brilliant, really well loved, but they don't actually have the revenue to match when they're behind closed doors. People who are speaking on stages, but there's no sales engine. So the gentleman that I spoke about as we opened, we need a sales engine. We need to get the message right, and then we need a sales engine as well. And then the third type of person wants to build valuable IP that isn't packaged, sold, or selling. Because if you've got great processes, methodologies, and IP, then you actually should move into the front of the pack. So there is a rhythm to this. There are 4 key pillars, and they're run across. So for those of you in Australia, this is an Australian-based program, Australia and New Zealand. If you're not in Australia, we do have some other programs we can speak to you about. But the rhythm of this is 4 key pillars, and we have 4 live events in Brisbane over a 12-month period. Now, Simon Bowen is the master at doing visual models. And if you listen to our podcast, you probably have heard our podcast with him. He's going to be coming in and doing a one-day masterclass with all of our people on how to actually create the models to speak to sell to. And then all of these will be the rhythm. The guest expert on day one. And if we've got a guest expert in, then I will be running day two to make sure you've implemented it and we actually do something with it before you walk out the door. Then the next one will be me actually helping you put your presentation together. Then Ian Stevens, who is Keynote Speaker of the Year 2025 for Australia, and he's also a sales guru. He's going to do the sell part of it in February, and then next May we're going to do how you actually scale this. So there's a lot of things to it. There are a certain limited amount of people currently. There's got some spaces left for what we're calling the Founders Dinner. So Simon Bowen will actually do a Founders Dinner on the night that he's here with a really deep conversation. He's very excited about that. It's kind of funny. Not funny, it's kind of cute. He's like really obsessed with the conversation, I think, even more so than the day we're going to do together. So we're getting your models visualized and your IP able to sell and speak to. We're going to make sure that you've got a presentation that definitely delivers the dial, just like I did for our client last week. We're going to teach you how to sell effortlessly, and then we're going to teach you how to scale it. So this is an implementation period, right? And we are an implementation program. So this is not just about feel nice and fluffy. This is about get some results, grow your revenue. So Roxanne's about to drop in the chat. If that is of interest for you, before I come back to all of you, that is of interest to you, then there is a link to download the brochure about it. And then there is a link to actually book a call with me. Now, in between these pillars, there are accountability groups, there are live coaching sessions. Each one of our experts will do a Q&A and a calibration session within 21 days of their session. And so there's a lot of access and a lot of things to keep you moving. But also I'm very aware, so this is not a program for people with empty diaries. So I'm very aware that most people have very full schedules. So we're making sure that we're actually giving you enough to keep you moving and get results, but not so much that we overwhelm you. Okay, so it's really, really important that we actually get very targeted and get results. So there'll be dashboards and all sorts of things going on to support it, but it's mainly about these residentials and actually moving you very quickly to adding at least 6 figures, if not multiple 6 figures, or in the case of that client last week, multiple 7 figures to your schedule. So as I said, Roxanne's dropping in the chat now if you want to book a call about that, or just go and download the brochure at this point, and we'll take it from there. What I would love to do now, this is a tradition, and a lot of you will know this if you've been in our world before. I'm going to go around just with a few people. What have you loved? And what are you taking away with you? What have you loved? One thing you've loved, one thing that surprised you, one thing you're taking away from you. Amir, Roxanne will get the link into the chat for booking a call. So I'm going to kick off with someone who's familiar with the process. I'm going to go to Danielle Dobson, and she just looked straight up at the screen and she knew I was going to do that to her. So Danielle, what have you loved? What surprised you? What are you taking away?
I've absolutely loved the story hook engine room close, even though I'm so familiar with it from you after working with you for many years, using that as a reminder for that 20 minutes. So, and those fantastic examples you gave as well. So I'd love that, especially the close. I think that's really important. Because people tend to remember the last things that you say.
Absolutely.
What I've been surprised about is all your fantastic client success stories. I mean, not surprised because, you're working with them, but pleasantly surprised that that's been fantastic outcomes. And takeaway, I'm going to look at my presentations that I do for CEO groups to make sure they land and I'm getting the outcomes I want.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Danielle. Elizabeth Hughes.
Hi, Jacqueline. Yes, no, I really love I always love the one lane thing because I think my default is to have multiple lanes. So the one lane piece in terms of being really focused and very clear, and then just really just repeating the message over and over. I found it really useful. And the image, I thought the model, we all love a model, and I thought that was great in terms of just being able to bring it back to that and making it again quite simple, visual, and something you can talk to and keep it very focused.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Elizabeth. I'm going to go now to Katrina and then to Patrick Jones.
Thanks, Jacqueline. Yeah, it's been amazing. Like, I've been through this before with you numerous times, but every time you do it, you just come up with something new and better. And for me, it's definitely the model. I don't know if I've just used Coco and come up with a really good model. So yeah, it's just been a really good refresher. I don't think you could go through this enough, because every time you go through it sparks something new. So yeah, it's been a really good refresher. So thank you.
Amazing. Thanks, Katrina. Over to Patrick Jones.
Hi there, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, I think just the very practical packaging from idea to actually something tangible that people can do something with next. I think is what I always get from these distinctions. I mean, I literally gave a talk at a parapsychology conference on Saturday, and it was thought, well, it's too esoteric. My areas, mindfulness and well-being, so this is a parapsychology conference, so they just want my research. I just gave them my research. I thought afterwards, I actually have a book that I put out 6 months ago. I didn't even mention, because I thought, well, perhaps it's really about always seeing what the opportunity is to then how do you package what you've got to the audience. Yeah, so it was interesting.
Amazing. Thanks, Patrick. Then to Vicky McDermott, and then over to Leona.
One of the things I really loved is your energy, Jacqueline, your and your enthusiasm in your delivery and wanting to share. All the other questions, or is that enough?
Yeah, no, that's enough. Whatever you feel comfortable with, Vicky.
And the model. I've heard you mention that before, and then I followed up. I watched your podcast, and then I followed up with YouTube. The references that were in the podcast, and it's absolutely fascinating and necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why Simon's our foundation in the program, because it's just necessary.
Yeah.
Thanks, Vicky. Over to Leona, then I'm going to go to Lou Zawada and down to Carol Cook.
Hi, mine was, thanks again, Jack. Mine was just a reminder about the one lane.
Yeah.
And I just still really struggle with that. I've got clients who are like CEOs of multi-billion-dollar companies, or an entrepreneur of a $5 million, $20 million. And at some point, I know I've got to decide, but I know it's just breaking my heart having to think about deciding that one. But a bit like what Danielle was, fabulous Danielle was saying, was like, I've seen this a couple of times, but then you see it through a different filter each time, because you've got a different level of experience to when you see it again. But also, I've just been asked to fill in for a speaker next week, and I'm going to try and look at selling a bit of a group coaching thing off the back of it. So that's just got me thinking about how to do that, with definitely not selling, but just a lot more stuff. So that was really, really relevant. And just what surprised me was hearing about the new program. Really interested. I love it. So that could be really good. Thank you.
Yeah, it's all the things we love. Right, had a bit to do with it. I'm going to go to Lou Zawada. That's how I say it.
Yep, that's how you say it. For me, the surprise was, I guess, still getting really clear on my messaging. So particularly where you had that reference around the productivity kind of payoff in that case study. That's something I think I'm still struggling with a lot with my kind of ideal clients. So just to really hone in and how critical that is. Another one was just how much you can get in without overwhelming in kind of a 20 to 30 minute period. So the feeling is that you need more time, and that's actually not true. So yeah, so he's given me a lot to take away, and it's also even just helping clarify revenue goals is not something I was expecting to have to do today, but I think it's always really good to get clear around where am I at, where do I want to be, and where do I want to spend my time. So yeah, a lot of people have got successful businesses like myself, but am I spending time on the things that bring me the most joy?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks. And I tell, like, the more you speak, the more your revenue grows, the bigger the team can be, and the less you have to do the stuff you don't like to do. Like, that's always my goal. Thanks, Lou. Carol Cook.
Hey, Jack.
It's been a while. Like a number of others, I've gone through this that many times. I don't think I have enough fingers and toes to count on. But I always learn something new, and I think today, just going through that 20 minutes again, it's made me realize that even though most of my stuff is just keynote, I actually have enough information that I could put together a half day or a full day workshop. And so just looking at that 20 minutes and how I can build that out to longer things, in the future was really good today.
Yeah, amazing, and thank you so much. So just briefly before we wrap up today's session, and I'm actually going to bring it in on time, which those who do know me know that's close to a miracle. What I did want to just highlight for tomorrow is about the sales, and it's also really important, and this is why I kind of seeded about the revenue and also to get a focus on why speaking is a really good way to scale. But I wanted to speak into tomorrow, like the sales strategy and why we put certain things in presentations and the mistakes that we make. So it's not going to be a whole sales process, because to do that is a full day, right? But it's actually what are the mistakes that we're making and what are the quick fixes that we can bring in to really make a difference when it comes to the revenue we can build. I will share with you the tactic that we use with Laurie, the woman from the US. I will share that with you because it works beautifully. And we'll just bring that together, because my whole idea of sales is simplification. And if you're looking for sales not to feel salesy, then you need to stop that. All you need is to understand the process and the purpose of it. So I'm going to walk through a few of those things tomorrow, because it's no good knocking it out of the park from a speaking perspective and not being able to do anything with what happens as a result. Okay, so we're going to walk you through that, and then on day 3, which will be Wednesday, I believe. So we've just moved house, so I have no idea what day it is right now. So on Wednesday, we will be walking through then how do you scale the opportunities and how do you scale what you're doing with it, because if you get the speaking right and the sales right, your business will grow in revenue in spite of you, which is kind of a lovely place to be, right? So I hope you've enjoyed today. Roxanne from Team AGT up the top will actually be getting the replays out to you this afternoon. They are available for a week. And if you have anything else that you'd love to know about, just book a call or download the brochure. Now, what I will say as well is if anyone's got a hot question, we do have time for that one hot question, and we will allow time for that one hot question at the end of every session. So has anyone got their hand up? Anyone want to put their hand up? No hot questions? Didn't like any thinking? Amazing. Let's see your hand go up. It's Luke.
Oh, I had one in the chat earlier, and you might have answered it. So you always keep the topic and the speech the same, but you're saying you make it relevant through the context around data and what's happening globally. Is that the only change?
Yeah, so it's what we call a local change, right? So local content change. And what that means is a local content change is we adapt 5 to 15% of it for the audience we're presenting to. Right? But we don't want to adapt anything more than that, because what happens is we don't become referable and trustable, right? So for people to refer us into other areas, we need to actually be pretty consistent in what we do. So so I will, in that case though, I didn't change that out because of the fact that it worked for that audience. So again, that was because the lane was really clear and the problem I was solving was super clear. So I didn't actually have to change that one at all. But if you are going to change, it's 5 to 15% only of the total content.
Thank you.
Amazing. I'm going to go to Amir next and then to Roger. We're getting a couple of extra hot questions in.
Oh, so I go next?
There we go. Yes. Yeah.
Oh,
Hi,
so
Amir.
my name's Amir and I'm new here, and every entrepreneur event I'm joining, even though it's my first time joining on a Saturday, I just want to learn more about myself, learn how to grow, and find a way to make sales when I go to each entrepreneur event. So I want to find more of myself, what I want to do, and it's a learning journey where I find the abilities where I could, when I could learn something, so I could just use that ability to help me get out of my full-time job. Hopefully in 2025, if not, 2026 is the dream goal. So that's all I got to share with you today. And we'll talk more tomorrow, Jacqueline, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We will.
Yeah,
we will.
I
Lots more coming.
Yeah, 11:40 p.m. tomorrow. Yep, see you then.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We do actually have people joining us from London in one of our programs,
No
so I
worries.
do appreciate it. Love it. Thank you. Roger, quick question before we wrap.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a quick question. It's something I've been struggling with all my life. So, love the analogy. I've used it myself plenty of times. The challenge that I have is focus. I can do so much. I can talk to so many audiences. I have so much experience, so many stories. And how do you do that? How do you, ideally, I need to identify a single audience or a niche, I guess, a subset of a single audience. Yeah, how do you do that?
So
That's
there's a
the
couple of
$1 million
things there,
question, right?
And you're right, it's $1 million question, and we could do 3 days on this alone. So there's two things with that. Number one is sometimes if you find it challenging, and Leona, I know that we talk all the time about you burrowing down into a niche. Sometimes actually it's a psychographic, not a demographic. So many of us are caught up on demographic, but quite often it's a psychographic. Psychographic will be more powerful. So psychographic is a group of people who think the same way. They're at the same point of frustration, all of that sort of thing. So psychographic might actually be what it is, and that broadens the appeal. The other thing is we do have a process around that within our program. So we actually, it's creating focus. So I run this through the concept. We have a focus map, which is what's all your experience, what's all your knowledge, what's the copy questions you get asked, and what do people actually pay you for, I think is the other thing. And that creates a sense, like the thing that crosses all those things is where you should start. And I also talk all the time about flirt, date, and marry. So one of the reasons why we don't set on something that's a single focus in a single place is because we think we've got to marry it straight up. But if we flirt a lot with things and then we date something for a while to see if it works and then marry it, so that kind of takes the pressure off, because it's like with internalized FOMO.
My challenge was I got engaged on my first date.
Yeah.
And we've been married for 30 years, so it works.
So then you know how to marry quickly, right?
That's right.
So apply that to this. But literally, like, you just, when it's so many things that I understand it, you do need to go, well, what is, and maybe for you it's 3 key things, 3 key features, but don't try to cover all of them in one.
Yep.
Build one per thing, right? It's really, really important. But you'll end up finding the one that lands. Like, the presentation I love the most is the one I've given the least, because it's not the ones that actually landed the results with the client. Does that make sense? So when you actually pressure test them, you very quickly find what's going to land and what's not, no matter what you feel and what you think. Because you're not getting gold zone, it's out. And like, I did a brand new keynote about 2.5 years ago, that I didn't follow my own process and thought I knew enough, and every single response was red zone, even at this stage of my career. Every single response. And people were like, it's amazing, it's so lovely, you're so incredible, blah, blah, blah. And like, everyone's like, oh my God, it went down so well. I'm like, oh, I just red zoned myself, right? So the market will tell you once you're in there and delivering it, but you need to make sure that each one that you do and each one that you try is a single focus.
Thanks.
Amazing. Okay, people, we are almost on time. I am so looking forward to tomorrow. I love speaking. I think all of you know that have come into my world. The sales is the sexiest thing on the planet when you understand how to do it, and it's the thing that gives you oxygen. So speaking and sales actually go hand in hand. They are not separate. You get better at one, you get better at the other one. So we'll see you back here tomorrow for Sell It, before we come back on day 3 for Scale It. Bye-bye.